Hello, everyone. We welcome you to another episode of Marriages of the Kingdom with Adrian and Nicole. We are broadcasters with WYTV7 Christian broadcasters out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're excited to have you join us on today. If our ministry has been a blessing to you, Marriages of the Kingdom and WYTV7, we ask that you please donate at the website. That is WYTV7.org. You can go to our website 24/7 and give a donation there, and that is greatly appreciated as we are a nonprofit organization. This segment is to help the men and women of God understand that God will keep you and that God will keep your marriage if you give him the opportunity to. But there is no challenge that's too difficult for God, and we want you to understand that he can restore any situation. We welcome to our show today a very special couple to us. We have Mr. Orlandis and his wife, Ms. Taja Walker. We're so happy to have y'all with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
We're excited about this today. And they're special to us for many different reasons. One of the biggest reasons is because God did a miraculous work in their life, and we're watching them grow daily by leaps and bounds, and it's such a blessing to see this.
All right, so let's get started with this interview. Orlandis, will you please share with us some of the history of your marriage and where you all met and how you met?
Me and my wife, we actually met on MySpace.
Okay.
Off the internet, MySpace, and we talked, we engaged in conversation, I think, for about 4 months, and so we actually, after 4 months, that's when we actually met. We met up in person, and from there we just we linked up and we got to know one another, and then led from there.
All right. Okay. Very good. Now, also share with us how you all became engaged and how your life really got started from that point.
Okay, how we became engaged. After being together for so long, I felt like it was time, and I proposed to her in front of my mom.
Okay.
In front of my mom. And I remember it was raining that day. I believe
Yes.
It was raining.
Very good.
It was raining.
Yes.
And I proposed to her.
Okay.
Very good story. Very good story. Miss Taja, what made you say yes when he proposed?
Well, I kind of felt like I actually had something to do with him proposing, because I had so many family members come to me saying, y'all been together 5 years, like long enough. Is he gonna marry you? Y'all having kids? Because we did have 2 children, before we got married.
Okay.
So, my family members were like, you having all these kids by him? Like, is he gonna make you an honest woman? So I kind of let it simmer and thought about it for a while. And I came to him. I was like, are we getting married? Because, I'm not going to be with you 10 years and then just decide we're not together, anymore or whatnot. So I like to think that, I put a little fire under him. So
Okay. And that little fire sometimes goes a long way, correct?
Yes.
Very good. That's amazing. That is amazing. Share some of the blessings that you have received from God that's actually brought you both closer together. What began to take place once you both said, I do?
Well, other than us having children, my children are, my biggest blessing. I would like to say that, even though we were married, I don't think we really thought about the marriage itself. At least I didn't. For me, it was about the wedding. The thing that is, right there. I wasn't really thinking long term, if I can be honest. I had a lot of people say, well, I had a family member that actually said, the women in our family don't stay married long. So, for me, that was kind of like, well, I'm going to show them, I'm going to show you. Overnight. Yeah, it was, So I took that into the marriage.
Okay. Very good. That's very good. let's go into some of the things. Okay, you've been married for a period of time at that point. How long have you been married now?
Been married 5 years.
Okay.
5 years.
Okay.
5 years.
Okay.
Amen.
Amen. That is a blessing. And so during the marriage, share with us, of course, as much as you're comfortable with, share with us some of the things that began to take place to where you're like, okay, we're kind of struggling here.
Oh, okay. Well, I would have to say, because it was some, infidelity, in the marriage. Because at the time, my wife, she wanted to, be like she said, she wanted to, be married, get married. And I knew at the time I wasn't, quite ready. But I jumped, when I should have just sat and kind of, really got myself together, got myself together first. Because I want to be, transparent, be transparent to people that's out there watching. But for me, that's pretty much, for me, at that point, just, me just jumping and not really, giving it, much thought. So to speak. So,
Okay. Okay. That's good. One of the things I heard you say, that people that are watching that are not yet married, one of the things that you said was, you were not ready. And instead of preparing yourself, you went into the marriage unprepared, which contributed to a lot of the issues that took place after I do. And for those that are not married, it is very important for you to understand that preparation is key to a healthy marriage. So you want to make sure you prepare yourself so that you're not putting all your baggage and garbage on the person that you get married to. So Todd, you want to share anything about what took place during that time?
For me, at the time, I didn't really think about it. I was just ready for the wedding. For me, now that I take a look back, I actually wasn't whole myself. I was looking for a father figure because I didn't have that growing up. So instead of me trying to make myself whole, I kind of feel like I probably leaned a little too much on him, expecting him to be something that we didn't like sit down and talk about. So I was expecting him to be something that he wasn't. Not realizing that he wasn't whole either. So we have two broken people getting together, and you kind of make a bigger mess of things.
Yes, that's really good. Yeah, that's some awesome revelation there. And that's so important to realize that two pieces of broke glass are still two pieces of broke glass. You can't put them together and make a whole piece out of it, and God has to do that. Literally, God has to do surgery, and like we're talking about today, and resurrect dead situations, but it still goes back to preparation before marriage and making sure we are all whole as individuals so that we're not literally in a marriage like two porcupines and sticking each other and literally sucking the life out of each other, because that's what happens when we're not healthy. Yep. So that's very good. So Orlando, as you mentioned the infidelity. So what do you feel for couples that may be going through that? There could be somebody that's watching that's actually operating in infidelity. Share with them what that did to you as a person, what it did to your marriage, what it did to your wife, to help them, really think about the behavior, that's behind that.
Oh, it definitely hurt my wife, and that was one of the major things, and when it hit the fan, I mean, you ain't got nobody to blame but yourself. You can't point the finger and make it seem like it's the wife or it's their reason why, because you know what you're doing when you're when you're doing it. And I would say to anybody, just seek God, seek His face, chase Him. And I'm saying, when you seek and chase Him, things will just change. Things will change. That's will change.
I think one of the things that Orlando's just mentioned too, from well, from the male or female perspective, when they're caught up in infidelity, they always want to point the finger and say it's someone else's fault. Or the wife may say, well, the husband wasn't doing something right at home, or the husband may say, well, the wife didn't do this at home. And that goes back to just communication. So the biggest thing is for us to not get to the place where we're doing the blame game and trying to point the finger at someone else, and really take a deep look at ourselves and look on the inside. And like you said, seek God, search him, and allow him to help us to figure things out. So,
yeah, and that's one of the biggest things, just hearing you talk now and talk about this situation, is hearing you take accountability. That's the biggest thing with any issue that we have in our marriages, is taking accountability for our stuff and not blaming it on someone else, because it's so easy a lot of times to say, okay, it's your fault, you're the reason that I behave like this, when in actuality, we're all accountable for our own behavior, and it's nobody's fault. And so we need to, be like you are with that and say, you know what, I messed up. It was my decision. And one of the things really honestly that people, especially Christians, because there are so many Christians that we counsel that have went through this. And what happens is, it's not just about a spouse turning away from the spouses turning away from each other. As a Christian, it says you have like literally tuned God out. Because if you tune God out, then any of us are subject to do anything at any point in time. That could be anybody. Nobody is exempt from that if we tune our power source out, which is God. And so that's one of the biggest things, is staying plugged into God, because once we all have a mindset of, I want to please God regardless, your spouse is in a safe place because you're pleasing God. So you're automatically going to please your spouse. And so that needs to be our focal point, in our marriages. Is not that I'm worried about what my spouse thinks or does or whatever. No, I'm concerned about what God thinks and how God feels about me. Am I pleasing God? And so that's the biggest point in our marriages that we really need to think about. One of the things that we do know, when it comes to restoration, there's work that has to be done on both sides. You cannot repair a broken marriage without work. What did you both do to rebuild your marriage? What type of work did you put in?
Well, for me, it had to be able to be open to receive forgiveness. I'm one of those people, I like to hold on to a grudge. You make me mad. I'm going to stay mad at you for a while. But I know that, if I'm wanting this relationship to work, that I have to be open to let down that guard and be open to accept his apology, to let him try to, make things better, and for us to try to work things out together, other than coming into a place where I'm still kind of like shutting him out, because it's like one foot in, one foot out, like hot or cold, like which one is it going to be? So I had to be open to, forgive him.
I would say for me, just open to letting her love me, and accepting her love, and not, kind of shying away, shying away from it. And most of all, I say putting, God in the center of everything, putting him in the center of our marriage, and to lead and guide us in the right direction.
And Todd, you were talking about forgiveness. That is so important, that the forgiveness takes place. And you did mention you had to forgive fully, because even though he may have committed an act, against God, against you, when he went to God and said, God, forgive me, I repent of my actions. When he came to you and said, I'm sorry, then at that point he has done as God has commanded him. So then now it's your place, as a wife or as a husband, if it was vice versa, to be like, okay, I receive, forgiveness for myself, and I receive your forgiveness that you're offering to me. because it's not fair to a person to, okay, I forgive you today, and then, you know, tomorrow, you know, I think you're looking out the corner of your eye at somebody, and then, you know, now all of this is rehashed all over again. And so that's literally like a roller coaster for a person, for, you know, would be for both of you, you know. And so forgiveness means I forgive you fully, just as God does with us. He don't forgive us partially, like, okay, I'm gonna forgive you for this, but not for that. And if you get on my nerves, I'm gonna bring that back up later on. You know, God releases us completely. And that's one of the biggest things with restoration that we have to learn is, you know, I release you completely of your actions, just like God released you completely. You know, that's what we have to get with that.
That's very good. When did, and I know you both said you both had to go to God and seek forgiveness and you know, for yourself as well. At what point in time do you think that, or did you feel that God had really forgiven you? Did you think it happened immediately? Just from your own perspective.
Look, I got excited when you asked me that question. I would have to say is when my wife, you know, actually, you know, came to me like in tears and told me she forgive me. She forgive me.
Amen.
And
Amen.
just thinking about it right now, I want to get teary on camera. Teary-eyed, but it's okay. It just let me know, because we went through so much, y'all.
Yeah.
I mean, we went through so much. And for this woman to come and after I've done wrong, I messed up. And for her to come and cry to me and tell me she forgive me, that's how I knew nothing but my daddy.
That's good.
Amen. 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 That's powerful. And in this, what are some of the other things that you did for restoration? You know, I know there was a period of time where we, as your pastors, at the time we weren't your pastors, but, you know, where, you know, we were there. That's one of the things that is so important when there's brokenness, is to get a third party involved too as well. You know, sound biblical counseling, not your mama, dad, or sister, cousin, and all these extra people that we go talk to, but to get sound biblical counseling. What did having a third party, another ear, another voice do as part of the restoration?
For me, it gave me a different point of view. You know, we can get stuck on ourselves, what we want, how we see things, to where we don't see the other person's point of view. And then to have a third party, to not be on either side, and to be able to bring forth information that we really didn't have before, as far as God and the biblical stance of a marriage. You know, I was ready to throw it all away and like, okay, I wasn't even going to try, you know, but I know that God didn't want that for us. So for me, it gave me God's point of view.
Amen.
Yeah, what she said. What she said. What she said.
Yes, definitely.
She said a mouthful.
And definitely, when a lot of times in marriage, you know, we get so private and we don't want anybody to know our business, and you know, and all hell is breaking loose and everything is falling apart. But not even thinking about the fact that if you don't get to a place of reconciliation, that everybody's going to know your business anyway, because you're going to be divorced, you know, so it's going to be obvious that everything was not peaches and cream. So for any couple that's going through any type of situation or issue, you know, we ask that you please get some biblical sound counseling, because God can restore any situation. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, we have a couple here that is living proof that if you give it to God, that He can fix it.
Oh, He can. Listen to me, He can.
He will. Amen. Regardless of what it is.
That's good. That's good. What are some of the things that you do now, present day? What are some of the things that you do now that keeps your relationship growing?
Well, now we're more active in church than we were at the time.
Okay.
At the time, it was kind of like off and on within the church. And then sometimes when we would go, I would go by myself, or, you know, sometimes he would go. We wouldn't go together. So we didn't share that connection with God. So for me, that, you know, the
like
church,
she said, the church.
praying.
When we start going to church and everything and getting that connection, that relationship with God, great, just things just started happening. I mean, like I can't even explain like the things that just started happening. I mean, I knew it's God because we're, building, getting close to Him, but it was just, church. I would have to say church.
Okay, that's very good. And Taja also mentioned at the very end, she said something about praying. Share a little bit more about that.
We pray together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which we didn't used to before.
Okay.
And he prays for me if he sees that I'm having an off day, whether it be at work or if I'm a little moody. He'll pray for me. And I think that's one of the best things a spouse can do for another spouse is pray for them.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. That's powerful. That is powerful. It's just blessing my heart to just sit here and listen to you guys from where you were before and to where God has you at now. And like you just said, one of the most powerful things that a spouse can do for their husband or wife is pray for them. That destroys it destroys anything that's not God. And it bonds everything that is God. That prayer does something powerful, and that's so important. Even in marital counseling or premarital counseling, that's one of the things that we tell couples: pray together, have study time together in the Word. That's so important for you to come together spiritually, because then that makes everything else beautiful. Sexual intimacy and everything else is beautiful when you bond spiritually, because that's the foundation to all other types of intimacy. So that's a blessing. It is a blessing.
Another question for you guys, both of you. What special role has your faith in God played in your marriage? Has your faith increased or decreased or bottomed out? Tell us.
Well, for me, definitely I would say increase. I always have been have faith, and I definitely would say for me it has increased because of just the things He has shown us from what we used to be to where we are now.
Right.
And, and for me, that's enough faith to that just I mean, it's really kind of self-explanatory. And so it's like from where we used to be to where we are now, like.
That's very good.
For me, my faith has definitely increased. Now I think before I speak. I used to be one of those people, I got to have the last word. So now, I kind of pick and choose, like, is it really worth arguing over? And most of the time it's not.
That's good.
So, I kind of watch what I say now and more open with communication with him. Because a lot of times, if we were having a moment or getting into it, I hop in the car and take out and just leave, and, thinking that will fix something, but the problem is still there when you come back.
Right.
So now I try to sit down in the midst of the issue of letting it get bigger.
That's good.
And try to talk it out.
That's very good.
And I was shut down. I was just, she tried to talk with me, I just shut down. But now it's more talk, since we got involved with church and everything, it's more talking now, like talking, engaging with one another.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Communication is key.
Communication is key.
Yes. We are so grateful for you guys to come on, Marriages of the Kingdom today, and just really open your life up and open your heart for other couples so that their marriages can be restored as well. And we're so grateful to you for being with us today. Yes, for your honesty and your transparency. That's a blessing. That's, the Word of God tells us we overcome by the words of our testimonies. So somebody else is going to overcome being in a dead place with their marriage in a dead place. And through you guys, they're going to know that God can resurrect their marriage. So we thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having us.
Wonderful job. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you again for tuning in with us for another episode of Marriages of the Kingdom. We invite you to connect with us via our website at www.marriagesofthekingdom.com. Again, that's www.marriagesofthekingdom.com. Or you connect with us via email. It's info@marriagesofthekingdom.com. Again, that's info at marriagesofthekingdom.com. Please share this information with other couples who may be struggling in their marriage. If you are in need of counseling, we do provide face-to-face and also virtual online counseling as another tool that we do use to just share in part of marriages so that we can save and build marriages. So again, until next time, please be intentional
about your marriage.